Hello everybody, welcome back to the Christian Runners UK interview, and you are going to enjoy this, everybody. I've been so looking forward to this, meeting this lady, and here she is right next to me, and it's Pam Storey. Is it Storey?
Storey, yes. Storey with an E.
Okay. And what a story she's got. So sit back, everyone, or if you're riding or you're running and you've got a podcast on, just listen to this. You're going to enjoy this. What a wonderful lady. I've met her only on Facebook, but we're going to meet her now face to face. So, Pam, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jason, and I hope everybody else is. We've got a lovely sunny day here today in West Sussex. I've been out and done a 3-mile sprint this morning.
A 3-mile sprint?
In preparation for a long run tomorrow.
Fantastic. So what is your 3-mile sprint then, Pam? How fast are you going?
Yeah, we've got a measured circuit around the village, which I only do it once a week because it's a bit short for me, really. But, you know, when I'm planning a long run for the following day, I don't really want to do too much. I walked 20 miles on Saturday.
Wow, 20
As part of my preparation for the next marathon. Yeah, I've got a marathon on the 18th of April. Wow. And the longest run I've done was 15 miles, so I needed a bit more time on my feet.
So how long did it take you to walk 20 miles then?
7 hours.
7 hours.
It wasn't fast, yeah, but as I say, time on my feet, because that's the time I've got to do the marathon in. So,
absolutely.
But hopefully 15-mile run tomorrow.
Right, so it sounds like you love doing long distances, but let's sort of talk about your running. When did you start? You know what I mean? When sort of did you start in your school days or when?
Well, having grown up with a family, 2 older sisters, and mum and dad, and no sport whatsoever.
Right.
I wasn't encouraged to do any sort of exercise really, and I hated running at school. I used to avoid it as much as I could. In fact, I remember in my last school, they tried to send us off to do a run just round a housing estate. The boys went to the local bird sanctuary, which was much more interesting, but no, the girls had to run around the housing estate. And I tried it once and didn't like it. So after that, I used to hide in a cupboard in the gym. When the runners came back, I'd sit on the floor puffing and panting, you know, pretending that's how much I hated running.
Right.
Anyway, it wasn't till many, many years later I started. One of the things actually is that we never had a car in our family, so we did a lot of walking.
Can you drive yourself?
Yeah, we didn't sort of do it for exercise purposes. It was just something to do on a Sunday afternoon or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that set me in good stead because, you know, walking everywhere and hopping on and off the buses and so on. And so I didn't do any sort of formal exercise until I did some sponsored walks, probably back in the 70s. Was all the rage then, you know, to raise money for charity or whatever. I did a couple of long distance sponsored walks.
That's and 50 years ago then.
Yeah, then I had a boyfriend who was he was one of those sportsmen that was good at everything he did. Football, cricket, darts, tennis, you know the sort, yeah. And I was actually living with him for a few years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a Christian at this time, I hasten to add. And I used to run a mile around the block with him.
Right.
And that was, you know, I mean, I grew up in the southeast, and this all happened in the southeast.
Yeah.
My parents took me to Sunday school as a child. They went to church every Sunday, and you know, we assumed we were Christians, as you do. You go to church, you're a Christian. They took me to Sunday school, and then at some point, I can't remember what age I would have been, a new vicar arrived at the church, and they stopped going to church. They didn't like the vicar. They played the organ too fast. They couldn't sing the hymns. They were required to pay a certain amount of money to the church regularly, and they didn't like that idea, and they just stopped going to church, you know. So that was that. So I had, you know, I didn't really have much to do with church for years. Anyway, there was a major change in my life in 1983 when the insurance company that I'd was working for, and I'd worked in insurance for 22 years altogether.
Right. Yeah.
They decided to relocate to Gloucester.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I knew where Gloucester was, but I'd never actually been there. I'd been to Cheltenham, which is about 8 or 9 miles away, but I'd never been to Gloucester. And that turned my life around completely, running wise, because I joined a jogging club while I was there.
Right.
And we started off running around the park, one tree to the next, jog a bit, walk a bit, you know. And there was a group of about a dozen of us. Some of them had done a little bit of running, but basically not that much. And that's how I started in 1983.
Right, so that's sort of when it all started.
Jogging around the park. And eventually...
You've sent, I'll tell everybody, Pam, you sent me sort of a little bit about yourself. And I've got to say, I was just looking, we're going to have to get on to the amount that you run. You know what I mean? A lot of people out there probably run a few little miles, but the stuff that you've done is absolutely amazing, isn't it? So your favourite stuff obviously is long distance. So how did you sort of get to wanting to run long distances?
Yeah. Yes, that's my first love, ultra distance. That started, again, Gloucester fits into that, because back in the 70s and 80s, Gloucester Athletic Club had the best ultra distance team in the UK.
Right.
And that team used to run over in New York and all sorts, you know, lots of, in fact, the 24-hour track record is still held, the UK record, by a Gloucester Athletic Club friend of mine, 170 miles. Right. And I got involved with running, joined the athletic club down there, and went to watch a 24-hour track race. And I didn't know such things existed.
No.
I knew about the marathon, because obviously we'd had the first London Marathon in 81, which I went to watch. But I'd never heard of ultra distance, let alone going round and round a 400-metre track. So I went to watch this event, and I ended up manually lap recording for one of the runners.
Oh yes.
And they were going round the track eating fish and chips. And I mean, anybody that runs knows that you eat 2 hours before you go for your run.
Yeah.
That's what we were taught, you know. And there they were, and it must have sowed a seed in my mind about 24-hour track racing. And
we've heard from some other ultra runners, and they love taking a picnic. Is it like what you do? It's like run and eat as you go.
Yeah. I never, in those early days, I would never have dreamt of running one myself, because at that point I hadn't even done a marathon. Anyway, I got into marathon running, and then eventually ultra distance. And 24 hours on the track, it's my first love.
Wow.
I think I've done 16 or 18 of them. You got the details on.
Well, there's one thing we need to mention to everybody. You tell people about this. You're a member of the 100 Marathon Club, is that right?
About the what one, sorry?
Is it the 100 Marathon Club? You're a member of that. What's that all about? Obviously, it's about 100. Is it 100 marathon? Well,
I got involved in that by accident, because when I moved to Gloucester, I met a guy there. He was actually in the army, Pam Storey, and he was training to do his first marathon.
Yeah.
And so I supported him on that, and then eventually I thought I ought to try and do a marathon myself. Right. You know, if you're a long distance runner, it makes sense to at least do one. And I said to him, right, okay, I'll do a marathon. So I trained with Gloucester Athletic Club to do a marathon, and which I did. Now, at the second marathon I did, I had quite a bad one actually compared to the first one, but the second one, when I finished, there was and it was like nearly 5 hours. There was a whole group of people sitting at the finish cheering me in that I didn't know. I didn't know these people. All I knew was Pam Storey. It was then my husband.
Yes.
And I thought, who are these people, you know? Anyway, as time went on, going around the marathon circuit with him, I discovered who they were. This was the group of people in the UK that have done or aiming to run 100 marathons.
Wow.
There was no official club in those days. It was just a group of people with like-minded interests,
Wow.
supportive, and they were all road marathons, no trails. And well, I got mixed up in bad company. It's called the 100 Marathon Club. It becomes addictive, Jason, if you're not careful. It does become addictive. I'd like to think that I'm not addicted to long distance running, because I've got something much more important in my life.
But the thing is that I think there's nothing too wrong as long as you balance it. Obviously, you love the long distance, and it's like obviously church and your charity too. We'll get onto that in a minute about your charity, but that plays a lot of part of your life too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I got to a point where I'd done all these marathons and ultras and whatever, and I thought, what's the point? You know, I'm only doing it for myself. This is a selfish thing. I've never really considered myself to be a selfish person, but I just thought, why am I doing it for myself?
Yeah.
Why don't I try and do it to help somebody else?
Yeah.
Well, by this time, I had actually left Gloucester. I'd split up from Pam Storey. I'd moved back to the southeast to my roots, and was thinking about going to church, because someone I knew in Gloucester had done an Alpha course and turned his life around completely.
Fantastic.
He was one of the runners. Great. And so, yes, I came to live in West Sussex in Copthorne, close to Gatwick Airport.
Okay.
And two ladies came and knocked on my door one Saturday morning and said, "We're from a local church. Is there anyone that would like prayer?" And I invited them in.
Right.
And the rest is history, because they took me to Kingdom Faith Church, which was a 2,000 member church in Horsham, about 20 minutes drive or so from where I live.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely. I've never seen anything like it. I couldn't believe this was church. Yeah. You know, all these hundreds and hundreds of people worshipping. Wow, I can't describe my feeling. I gave my life to the Lord, and that same day that I gave my life to the Lord at Kingdom Faith Church, I was actually healed of a frozen shoulder.
Wow, praise God.
That's what I mean. My testimony is a long one regarding healing, but I couldn't move my left arm further than about that movement. And somebody that night that I went to the church prayed for me, and I was healed immediately. And the following week, I went to church and went, praise the Lord. Up went my arm, which I couldn't have done for 6 months.
Praise God.
So that was the beginning, and that was 1997.
Right.
Anyway, within a year or so, I became friends with a couple of missionaries, let's call them. It's an old-fashioned word, but people that do mission.
Well, I think we still call them missionaries. I'm sure we do. We do at our church anyway. Yeah.
Well, they met at Bible college actually, and Rose, the lady, had been to Uganda with YWAM, Youth with a Mission. Yeah. And she became friends with a pastor in a village there, a fishing village on the shores of Lake Victoria called Chiindi. Spelt with a K, but they pronounce it Chiindi. She became friends with the pastor there and kept in touch with him when she came home. In the meantime, she met Jerry at Bible college. They decided to get married, and they went back to Uganda year after year. God suggested that they needed a decent church over there, because churches in Africa are often quite little wooden shacks, you know. And there were quite a few Christians in this village. I also hasten to add a lot of Muslims as well, but there was a good Christian community, but they needed a church. So when Jerry and Rose got married, they asked their friends and relatives to donate money rather than presents, and that money went towards buying a plot of land, and they built a church. And it was around about this time that I got involved with the charity. So I did a 24-hour race in Hull one year, and I remember doing it to raise money for the charity. And I can remember in the middle of the night when I really wanted to go in my tent, all I could think of was the pictures I've seen of these little kiddies in Chiindi they desperately needed a borehole well with a pump
Yes,
to fresh water.
yeah.
And that's what I was raising money for. And that's all I could think about, going round and round that track through the night. Was anyway, yeah, cut long story short, I became involved. I'm a trustee, I'm the fundraiser for the charity.
Fantastic.
I've been to Uganda 7 times. It changes your life completely when you do something.
So
like that.
what is the name of the charity again?
Advanced International Ministries.
Advanced International Ministries. And what we'll do is we'll put a link.
Small charity. It's just run by my friends Jerry and Rose, and we've got a small group of trustees. But
Brilliant.
yeah, I mean, trying to raise money for charities is difficult enough, but Christian charities, it is very hard.
Yeah.
And so when I started the Crawley track race in 2006, initially it was 6 and 12 hours.
I've heard about this, you know. I've met a few runners, and they all talk about this. It's so tell us, because you're really involved in this, aren't you, Pam?
Well, it's the main fundraiser for the charity now.
Brilliant, fantastic.
You know, I call it the AIM, the Crawley AIM, Advanced International Ministries AIM, the Crawley AIM charity 6-12 hour race. 4 years ago, we added 24 hours. Had to be done.
Yeah. I bet you did it too, didn't you?
I know I've been giving the charity at least £1,000 every year from it. It doesn't sound a lot of money in the big, you know, picture, but that goes a long way in Uganda.
Oh, absolutely. I help. I mentioned to you earlier. I help in a Tanzanian charity, and it's an orphanage. And I've been out a few times and done things for the kids, and it does change your life. I know you see things on telly, but when you see the kids in need,
to actually go there,
and I'm the same, raising money for them.
Well, we built the church, the house for the pastor, a medical centre with a maternity unit.
Yeah.
Lots of healthy babies being born that wouldn't have been otherwise. And then we thought that was the end of it. Yeah. That was enough. You know, we managed to raise enough money to keep that going. But on one of the trips there, God said to Jerry, they need a school. They really do need a school, preferably a boarding school. And there was another plot of land available. So, so we started it all over again, building work, built the school. We've now got over 500 children there.
Wow. And that keeps you busy then?
It's mainly funded from the UK, you know, from the people that donate to our charity. But we've encouraged them to try and be a bit more self-sufficient because we can't support it completely. No. So they're now talking about building another school. I'll have to start finding more ways of raising money.
I've just been reading. It's funny you said that. I've just been reading a book. Is a sports presenter, Dan Walker. He's got a book out. I'm not plugging it or anything, but part of it is he met a lady in South Africa who was doing things for the kids, and she's passed away now. But her motto was, they don't just want help; they want an upper hand. So they want to do things for themselves, and that was her motto. Yeah, we've got to help them in the beginning, but they actually do want to help themselves. And I can't remember the wording, but and I think that's what they do, don't they? They want that, and that sounds good. That's happening there.
I mean, when you think there must be thousands of charities in the UK fundraising for Africa, and other parts of the world, obviously, but I'm mainly involved with Africa.
Well, we're so blessed, though, aren't we? What we've got. To them, they see us as millionaires, even though we're not. But
yes, of course. Well, do you know, Jason, one of the problems that I found when I first went there was they do sometimes have access to a newspaper and possibly see somebody's television. And what do they see? People like David Beckham. I mean, everybody's heard all over the world the amount of money that David Beckham was getting paid, and they just assume that they call us Mzungus. White people. Mzungus are very, very wealthy. They don't know any different. And of course, as soon as we go there, they're wanting money. Vehicle needs new tyres or this or that, you know. And we just have to find the money to help them. New minibus and all sorts of things we've provided, you know. But
well, it's great you're involved in that. And like I said, I'll definitely make sure there's a link on so people can look at it and go from there. But just going back to your running, Pam, I just want you to tell everybody how many marathons you've done, because you did tell me on it, and I was flabbergasted.
To date, 215 marathons and ultras.
Wow, 215. Yeah. Wow, I got to 20 marathons, and I thought, I've had enough.
Now, what I say, Jason, that's 20 more than all those sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People say to me, I've only ever run a half marathon. Well, it's half a marathon more than the ones that don't do anything.
That's what I say about parkrun, because I'm involved a lot with parkrun, and it's like, you've done a parkrun and people say, oh, I was slow today. And I said, yeah, but a lot of them are still in bed or they're sat on the settee. You've actually got out and you've got round it. And that's a thumbs up. Yeah,
that's great. Well, that's the time that I wear my Christian Runners t-shirt, of course, when I do part one.
Yeah, and I love your t-shirt now. Your t-shirt says G.
Oh, yes, this is... Well, I didn't say anything about the London Marathon.
Yeah, but go on, tell us about that.
I've done, I think, 12 London marathons dressed as Supergirl. Running with a friend he's done over 300 marathons, John Wallace. He's done nearly every London marathon in a Superman costume.
Wow.
And when I decided to start fundraising for the charity, I needed a costume. I needed a fancy dress.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was going to be. It could have been anything. It could have been a teddy bear or whatever. Yeah. And a friend of mine offered to lend me a costume. And lo and behold, it was Supergirl.
Fantastic.
So I then became Supergirl Pam. I got the t-shirt from, well, this one was specially made, but the original one I got from the internet. And it says Jesus, the original Superman.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
well,
anyone that's run the London Marathon will know that if they've got their name on their t-shirt, thousands of people are going to be calling out to them.
Absolutely. I've done it 14 times.
Yeah, I've got the red cape, and all the business, and this.
Brilliant.
And there's thousands of people in the streets of London yelling out, "Come on, Jesus!"
Brilliant, excellent.
It's hilarious. It really is. I mean, at one point, because Jerry and Rose come and support, they empty the buckets and all that sort of thing. Because we carry buckets all the way around. And I said to Jerry, I don't think it's right. All these people calling out, "Come on, Jesus!" And he said, God loves it. That's what he wants to hear. It really is. So funny, but it's made it extremely enjoyable. I've had such fun doing those marathons with Superman, carrying the bucket with pictures of the orphans and everything on the bucket.
We're listening to your story, but one day I'll tell you all my story. But just very quickly, I've done a couple of marathons and half marathons dressed as a clown, because I've been a entertainer for a lot of years, and you only have to look on my motto. I actually set a world record dressed as a clown. But, just dressed as a clown was amazing. The crowds, the cheering, it was brilliant. And obviously doing it for charity too, it just makes it all worthwhile.
I mean, one of the funniest incidents at London, quite early on into the race, I would say perhaps around about the 2 or 3 mile mark, there's a church. And it's a very lively church. And they're all out the front cheering the runners on. Okay. Well, what happens when there's groups of people like that? We put the buckets down and we dance, we jive, we do the can just to entertain them. Brilliant. More money goes in the bucket, especially outside the pubs, of course, where they're all, with their pints and we're dancing and money goes in. Brilliant. Anyway, one particular time we went past the church and we stopped and we started dancing. And the pastor, who was a big black guy, a lovely, great big man, he came and he was jiving with Superman on the street. He actually came onto the street. Fantastic. It was just superb, the fun we've had. It won't happen again because it's so difficult to get an entry for London.
Well, that's it. It's all charity places, and they all want you to raise thousands of pounds for them, which is a shame, isn't it?
There was a point where for some years I was chairman of the 100 Kilometre Association. Yeah. And we were affiliated to UK Athletics, so we got one marathon place every year.
Yeah. Well, a
lot of the members weren't interested, so that's how I managed to do London so many times. Thank God I was provided with a place every year.
Well, my local club, we get 2 places every year. You know what I mean? It all depends on your numbers. And obviously, there's always lots of people that haven't got in. So we put them all in a ballot and then we pull them out. But yeah, it is hard to get in. But there is so many wonderful marathons around the UK. And obviously, you've run a lot abroad too.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Well, I go to Monaco every November for an 8-day event.
Yeah.
That's a charity event in its own right. They raise money for needy children all over the world. It's fantastic. You can walk it or run it. A 1 kilometre circuit, day and night, for 8 days. Fantastic. And I've done it 11 times. This year will be my 12th. Obviously, last year didn't happen, but cool. And I've got Christian friends there. You know,
brilliant.
They speak a little bit of English. And I walk around with them, you know. And,
so what would you say is your favourite race then that you've done? Obviously,
my favourite race. Oh, I shan't hesitate on that one. The Comrades in South Africa.
Wow.
Which again, I raised money for the charity on that one. I ran it in 2003. Yeah. In my opinion, it's the best race on the planet.
Is that a long?
If anybody gets a chance to do it, if you're up to doing they call it a marathon. Of course, it's 55, 56 miles.
Okay.
I would recommend to anyone, if they get the chance, to go and do the Comrades.
It's a bit warm there too, isn't it? It's a bit warm.
It wasn't too bad. It was about 25, 26 degrees.
Wow.
Which sounds hot by our standards, I suppose, but because it's point to point, and I did what they call the down one, because it alternates each year. It's either up or down. The down one's the hardest because it wrecks your quads. It really does.
Yeah.
I did the down one, and the sun was behind me all the way, so I wasn't facing the sun, which was quite a blessing, to be honest. Wow. But I towards the second half, when I got to the point where I was having to walk a bit, I saw somebody in front of me with something about Jesus on the back of his vest.
Oh yeah.
So I had to catch him up, and he was a South African, not sure where he was from, but they got a running club in his church, and he got this running vest on. Yeah. And we didn't have to say it, but we knew we were going to finish the race together. Oh, you know, we just had that.
Yeah.
He was white and spoke English, obviously, but South African. And we just carried on together. If one of us wanted to walk, we walked. We jogged, walked a bit.
Yeah.
And when we got to about a quarter of a mile from the finish, which was in a big cricket stadium in Durban, we knew we were going to cross that line together. And we went round the stadium and we crossed the line holding hands together.
Oh, fantastic. What a memory.
And it was just, I don't know whether I would have ever finished that race without that guy. We'll never know.
Yeah.
And likewise with him.
Yeah. Amazing.
It was a wonderful experience. And of course, everybody sort of splits up when you get across the finish line. And I had to look for him, you know, just to give him a great big hug, you know. I don't even know what his name was. I'll never see him again, but I shall never forget him.
No.
You'll
meet him in heaven if you don't meet him before. That's what I always say. Yeah, but that's fun. What a wonderful story that is, and I'm sure you've got absolutely loads, Pam, haven't you? But tell us about you got baptized in a really nice place.
Oh yes, well I think it was the first time I went to Uganda. I'd been a Christian since 1997. Yeah. And went to Uganda in, I can't remember, 2000, I think. I'd been a Christian for a while, but I don't know why, I just didn't feel ready to be baptized.
Yeah.
I can't swim. I don't like going in deep water. Yeah. So the thought of just having my head underwater horrified me. But that wasn't the only reason. The time just didn't seem right. When I went to Uganda with Jerry and Rose, I said to Jerry when we got there, "Do you do baptisms while you're here?" And he says, "Oh yes." He said, "They're all lining up to be baptized in the Lake Victoria, because there's a fishing villages on the shores of the lake."
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, will you baptize me?" I mean, God had told me to do that, obviously. Yeah. God said, "You need to be baptized." That was it. "Jerry, can you baptize me?" And I think there were 16, 17 Ugandans, black, me, the only Mzungu.
Yeah.
We'll walk down to the lake, and I insisted on being done last because I didn't want to be hanging around soaking wet.
Yeah.
So I was the last one to be baptized, and then we went back to Pastor Dan's house where we were staying. But yeah, that was something else.
And is your local church is where you live now? Obviously, is that a big?
Yeah. Now the church I go to now, I'll just say this quickly. I was at Kingdom Faith Church for 20 years, and in the end, I just felt that it wasn't right for me. I don't drive. I was having transport issues getting to and fro because it was quite away from the house. And for various other reasons, people were leaving that I'd known for years. Yeah. They were moving away, going to other churches. And I went there one day and I sat down after the service with my cup of coffee, and not one person came and spoke to me. And I've been a member for 20 years. Wow. And that was it. I knew the time was to move on. Right. So I went to another church, a bit nearer home. And all this time, from 1997, I'd been praying that for the church in my village, which is a traditional Anglican church, St. John's Church, I was praying for a spirit-filled vicar. Right. Because they had traditional Anglican vicars and nothing was happening. Yeah. You know, and this is a big village. It's almost a town. Nothing was happening. And compared to what I was seeing in Kingdom Faith Church, you know, I thought we need someone. 2 different vicars were there over the time. Lovely guys, but nothing was happening. And I prayed and prayed for a spirit-filled vicar. And 2 years ago, it happened. Right. We've got this wonderful youngish 2 little girls, Dutch man. Oh, and he's the vicar there now. And the first thing we did was an Alpha course. Yeah. And we had 43 people at our first Alpha, which was great. And yeah, so that's the church I go to. It's 10 minutes walk from my house.
Fantastic. Which is well, Pam, I'm sure we could talk forever here. And we haven't finished yet, but I think we've got to tell everybody, if you don't mind, how old are you? We never asked ladies this, do we? But
yeah, well, it's just a number.
It is, yeah.
Age is just a number. I shall be 73 on the 1st of June.
Wow, you know what I mean?
And I just can't believe that because of my lifestyle.
To see what you do, you know what I mean? Most people, I'm sure, around your age will be struggling to even walk. So to run and the marathons and the ultras, it's a credit to you for keeping fit. You know what I mean? It's like me. I'm in my 50s now. You just got to keep going, haven't you?
Oh, you're just a youngster.
Yeah, I'm a baby, me. I'm a baby.
Yeah. Well, do you know, sometimes people say to me, oh, well, when you do these big long runs, you're getting help from above.
We might be. Well, praise God.
I've got to be honest. I mean, God has been such a big part of all this. It would not have happened without his help. I mean, that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
You know, I think you really need to write a story, because with your name, Pam Storey, I just think, tell people about what you've done, your life. I mean, it's amazing. And I thought of the scriptures as I read sort of your life a bit, and it's the one which is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I really believe that. I mean, I know some people struggle, but God can do anything. It might be physical, but it might be something mental. I mean, we can always do something for Christ who helps us, and obviously he's definitely helping you run and keep on your feet. So what a wonderful verse. So I believe you've got a verse for us from the Bible.
Well, I think suffice to say, everyone that's watching this will know Isaiah 40 verse 31, but this is a different version, and perhaps not many would have heard this version. This is the Street Bible version. I'm actually going to read 25 to 31.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. God says, compare me to what? Is there anything that even comes close? Look up, see the stars. Who made them? Who switches them on at night? Who knows their real names? Who has the sheer power to keep any of them from imploding? So how come you moan? God's got a blind spot with me. He's ignoring me. Aren't you up to speed? He's the infinite one, designer, creator. He doesn't get tired. No one can scratch the surface of his understanding. And he lets the weary ones plug into his strength reserves. He recharges the weak with his power. Even teenagers need him to fill their energy tanks. Even they trip up. Even they land flat on their face. But those whose prospects are tied up with God will get a second wind, third wind, fourth, fifth, sixth. They'll fly magnificent like eagles on the nature channels. They'll run marathons back to back. They'll walk mountains at midday, midsummer, and not even break sweat. We can all relate to that, can't we?
I love that, run marathons back to back. That sums you up, Pam. That is just brilliant. What a fantastic
Read Bible for anyone that hasn't read it. It's interesting.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and I'm sure everybody that's watching this or listening to it, I'm sure they've learned so much about you. And I hope, Pam, that I'll meet you face to face. Especially, I know you do something with the Leeds-Liverpool Canal race, and that's a long way, isn't it? So maybe.
Yes, I should be up in Leeds at the end of August. So I might see you up there.
Right, definitely. Yeah. Let's keep in touch. I will meet you. It's a date. You know what I mean? You're welcome to come back.
It's been wonderful. Thank you very much for talking to me. And hope to see some of you at the Crawley track race one day.
Yeah.
How many miles can you do in 6 hours?
That's it. So that's a challenge for you all Christian runners. The Crawley. So there's a 6 hours, there's a 12 hours, and a 24
12 and 24. Yeah.
Right. So if you're up for that, I might manage the 6, and I'll take a packed lunch with me because I've heard you've got to do that. Fish and chips, pork pies. Yeah, I'll have it all, me, like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's been brilliant listening to you, and what a wonderful life you've had, and you're still doing loads of stuff, and what a blessing you are to that charity too for the kids in Uganda.
Thank you.
I pray God will keep blessing you with that and the people out there. So yeah, thanks again, Pam, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Yeah, God bless everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.